YouTube. Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. I was just explaining to my close family. You guys are all out there, extended family, but this is my close family. We've been reading every day for a long time together. And I was just explaining to them that time marches on. By the time I get on that plane to go to the UK to get my hips replaced, it's going to be intense. So bear with me, hang on. Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotra of Srila Sanatana Goswami is there to help us glorify the Bhagavatam before we hear it and go as deep as we can. Help us understand what we're doing. It goes like this. Sarvasya Shabdipi Yusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarvasiddhanta Ratnaja Sarvalokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwan Dutitaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who were supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madhika Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Mandistadagamad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhutadayin atini chochatakara hanamunchagadachin mam premnarit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, pop quiz. What's the name of the chapter? The Varnasrama system explained. That's correct. So now he's getting into the practical, now he's kind of bringing it down to earth, practical, what do we do about this, in practical day-to-day life. Well, that's the 17th chapter, 11th canto. Krishna continues to instruct Uddhava, called the Uddhava Gita. Beginning with text 8. Shukadev Goswami, Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Sri Uddhava, the best of devotees, thus inquired from the Lord. Hearing his question, the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna was pleased, and for the welfare of all conditioned souls spoke those religious principles that are eternal. Text 9.
Is this the Shri? Is that supposed to be lowercase? Is it lowercase?
Say that again.
For Shri Krishna, the Shri is lowercase.
Not in mine, it's corrected.
Okay.
Thanks for being a spot checker. Hare Krishna, thank you. Okay, 9. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Uddhava, your question is faithful to religious principles and thus gives rise to the highest perfection in life, pure devotional service, for both ordinary human beings and the followers of the Varnasrama system. Now please learn from me those supreme religious principles." Purport. The word Naishriyasya Kada indicates that which awards the highest perfection of life, Krishna consciousness, which the Lord is explaining to Sri Uddhava. When considering religious principles, ordinary human beings remain bogged down in sectarian, mundane considerations. The process that awards the highest perfection of life should be considered the most auspicious for human beings. The Varnashram system is the most scientific presentation of religiosity on the earth, and those who are most perfect in that system come to the point of Krishna consciousness, or dedicating everything for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Text 10. In the beginning, in Satya Yuga, there is only one social class called Hamsa, to which all human beings belong. In that age, all people are unalloyed devotees of the Lord from birth, and thus learned scholars call this first age Krita Yuga, or the age in which all religious duties are perfectly fulfilled. Purport. It is understood from this verse that the supreme religious principle is unalloyed surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Satya Yuga, there is no influence of the lower mode of nature, and therefore all human beings belong to the highest social order called Hamsa, in which one comes under the direct supervision of the Personality of Godhead. In the modern age, people are crying out for social equality. But unless all human beings are situated in the mode of goodness, which is the position of purity and unalloyed devotion, social equality is not possible. Sorry, folks. As the lower modes of nature become prominent, secondary religious principles arise, by which people may be gradually elevated to the pure stage of unalloyed surrender to God. In such a yuga, there are no inferior human beings, and thus there is no need of secondary religious principles. Everyone directly takes to the unalloyed service of the Lord, fulfilling perfectly all religious obligations. In Sanskrit, one who perfectly executes all duties is called Kritakritya, as mentioned in this verse. Therefore, such a yuga is called Krita Yuga, or the age of perfect religious action. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the word Adao, in the beginning, refers to the moment of universal creation. In other words, the Varnashram system is not a recent concoction, but naturally arises at the time of creation and should therefore be accepted by all intelligent human beings. Text 11. In Satya Yuga, the undivided Veda is expressed by the syllable Om, and I am the only object of mental activities. Take me back to the Satya Yuga. I become manifest as the four-legged bull of religion, and thus the people of Satya Yuga, fixed in austerity and free from all sins, worship me as Lord Hamsa. Purport. The bull of religion is described in Srimad-Bhagavatam 1:17-24. Tapak shocham daya satyam itipada krite kritaha. In the age of Satya, truthfulness, your four legs were established by the four principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. Sri Vyasadeva divided the one Veda into four, the Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharva Vedas, at the end of the Dwapara Yuga. But in Satya Yuga, the whole of Vedic knowledge is easily understood by everyone simply by vibrating the syllable Om. In this age, there are no ritualistic or pious activities such as sacrifice, since everyone is sinless, austere, and fully engaged in worshipping the personality of Godhead, Lord Hamsa, through the process of meditation. Text 12. O greatly fortunate one, in the beginning of Treta Yuga, Vedic knowledge appeared from my heart, which is the abode of the air of life, in three divisions, as Rig, Sama, and Yajur. Then from that knowledge I appeared as threefold sacrifice. Purport. In Treta Yuga, the bull of religion loses one leg, and only 75% of religious principles are manifested, represented by the three principal Vedas, Rig, Sama, and Yajur. The Lord appears in the process of threefold Vedic sacrifice. The three divisions are understood as follows. The Hota priest offers oblations into the fire and chants the Rig Veda. The Udgata priest chants the Samaveda, and the Advarya priest, who arranges the sacrificial ground, altar, etc., chants the Yajur Veda. In the Treta Yuga, such sacrifice is the authorized process for spiritual perfection. The word pranat in this verse refers to the universal form of the personality of Godhead. This form is further described in the following verses. Text 13. In Treta Yuga, the four social orders were manifested from the universal form of the personality of Godhead. The Brahmanas appeared from the Lord's face, the Kshatriyas from the Lord's arms, the Vaishyas from the Lord's thighs, and the Shudras from the legs of that mighty form. Each social division was recognized by its particular duties and behavior. Text 14. The married order of life appeared from the loins of my universal form, and the celibate students came from my heart. The forest-dwelling retired order of life appeared from my chest, and the renounced order of life was situated within the head of my universal form. Purport. There are two classes of brahmachari life. The Naishtiki brahmachari remains celibate throughout life, whereas the Upakurvana brahmachari marries upon finishing his student life. One who remains perpetually celibate is situated within the heart of Lord Krishna. But those brahmacharis who eventually marry are situated within the loins of the universal form of the Lord. The word Vane Vasat refers to Vanaprastha, or the retired order of life, which is situated on the chest of the Lord. Text 15. The various occupational and social divisions of human society appeared according to inferior and superior natures manifest in the situation of the individual's birth. Purport. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, the Brahmanas and Sannyasis, being situated on the head of the universal form of the Lord, are considered to be the most qualified, whereas the Shudras and Grihastas, being on the legs or loins of the personality of Godhead, are considered to be in the lowest position. A living entity is born with a certain amount of intelligence, beauty, and social opportunity, and he is therefore situated in a particular occupational and social position within the Varnasrama system. Ultimately, such positions are external designations, but since the majority of human beings are conditioned by the external energy of the Lord, they should act according to the scientific Varnasrama divisions until they reach the stage of Jivan Mukta, or liberated life. Text 16. Wow, Shemak Shemas Tabo Jao Sham. Bhagavad Gita. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, cleanliness, satisfaction, tolerance, simple straightforwardness, devotion to me, mercy, and truthfulness are the natural qualities of the Brahmanas. 17. Dynamic power, bodily strength, determination, heroism, tolerance, generosity, great endeavor, steadiness, devotion to the Brahmanas, and leadership are the natural qualities of the Kshatriyas. 18. Faith in Vedic civilization, dedication to charity, freedom from hypocrisy, service to the Brahmanas, and perpetually desiring to accumulate more money are the natural qualities of the Vaishyas. Purport. Atushtir arto pachayai indicates that a Vaishya is never satisfied with any amount of wealth and always wants to accumulate more. On the other hand, he is dhananishta, or dedicated to charitable work, brahmasevi, always engaged in assisting the Brahmanas, and adamba, free from hypocrisy. This is due to astikyam, or complete faith in the Vedic way of life, and confidence that one will be rewarded or punished in the next life for one's present activities. The fervent desire of the Vaishyas to accumulate wealth is not the same as ordinary material greed, because it is purified and tempered by the superior qualities mentioned in this verse, mainly charity. Text 19. Service without duplicity to the Brahmanas, cows, demigods, and other worshipable personalities, and complete satisfaction with whatever income is obtained in such service are the natural qualities of Shudras. Purport. When the entire social order is functioning properly according to the Vedic standards, everyone is happy and satisfied. Although the Shudras are to be satisfied with whatever income they obtain through their service, they never lack the necessities of life, because the other orders of society, such as Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, are required to be abundantly generous, and the Brahmanas are well known for being the most merciful of all. Therefore, if all social classes obey the Vedic injunctions, there will be a new and blissful life for the entire human society under the guidance of Krishna consciousness. Text 20. Dirtiness, dishonesty, thievery, faithlessness, useless quarrel, lust, anger, and hankering constitute the nature of those in the lowest position outside the Varnasrama system. Purport. Here the Lord describes those who reside outside the scientific social system called Varnasrama. In Europe and America, we have practically observed that the standards of cleanliness are abominable, even among so-called educated persons. Going without bathing and the use of indecent language are common. In the modern age, people whimsically speak whatever they like, dispensing with all authority, and there is therefore very little truthfulness or true wisdom. Similarly, in both the capitalistic and communistic countries, everyone is busily engaged in stealing and robbing from everyone else in the name of business, taxation, and outright crime. People are not confident of the kingdom of God, nor of their own eternal nature, and thus their faith is very weak. Moreover, since modern human beings are not very interested in Krishna consciousness, they constantly quarrel, bicker, and fight over completely insignificant issues relating to the material body. Thus, at the slightest provocation, there are huge wars and massacres. Lust, anger, and hankering have become practically unlimited in Kali Yuga. That reminds me that this cleanliness principle, Prabhupada used to define it as knowing how to live without contacting dirtiness. So this whole thing that's going on from China, it's all because they had this huge, filthy, open market where they just kill or sell any kind of critter possible that you can imagine. We can't even think about eating the things that they're eating. And so it all just comes from there. And then now they're wondering, how is it that these things are coming from animals? They thought before that it couldn't go from human being from animal to human being, then human being to human being. But now they found out because all the human beings are animals. Of course, they don't think like that. But we know. Dvipada, Dvipada, two-legged animals, and they're just incubators, for viruses and, diseases and things. Moreover, since human society beings are not very interested, modern human beings are not very interested in Krishna consciousness, they constantly quarrel, bicker, and fight over completely insignificant issues relating to the material body. Thus, at the slightest provocation, there are huge wars and massacres. Lust, anger, and hankering have become practically unlimited in Kali Yuga. The symptoms and characteristics mentioned here can be abundantly observed throughout the world, wherever people have fallen away from the Varnasrama system. Because of sinful habits, such as animal killing, illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling, the great majority of human beings have become chandalas, or untouchables. Text 21. Non-violence, truthfulness, honesty, desire for the happiness and welfare of all others, and freedom from lust, anger, and greed constitute duties for all members of society. Shall I say that one again? Oh, okay. Oh, all right, I'll do it. Non-violence, truthfulness, honesty, desire for the happiness and welfare of all others, and freedom from lust, anger, and greed constitute duties for all members of society. Purport. The word sarva varnika indicates that the above-mentioned principles constitute general piety, which should be observed by all members of society, even those outside the Varnashram system. We practically find that even in societies that have fallen away from the Varnashram system, the above-mentioned principles are honored and encouraged. Such principles do not constitute a specific path of liberation, but are perennial virtues in human society. Shall we hear him again after hearing that explanation? Non-violence, truthfulness, honesty, desire for the happiness and welfare of all others, and freedom from lust, anger, and greed. Everyone's duties. Text 22. The twice-born member of society achieves second birth through the sequence of purificatory ceremonies culminating in Gayatri initiation. Being summoned by the spiritual master, he should reside within the Guru's ashram and with a self-controlled mind carefully study the Vedic literature. That's what we're doing every day. Carefully. Purport. The term Dvija, or twice born, here indicates the superior classes, namely Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, who all receive the Gayatri mantra, which signifies their second birth through spiritual initiation. One's first birth is biological, or seminal, and does not necessarily indicate that one is intelligent or enlightened. A young Brahmana boy is qualified, may be initiated with the Gayatri mantra at the age of 12 and Kshatriyas and Vaishyas a few years later. In order to become enlightened with spiritual knowledge, the boy resides within the Gurukula, the ashram of the spiritual master. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness has established similar Gurukulas all over the world and is issuing a great call to civilized human beings to arrange for the proper education of their children. Every young boy and girl should learn to be self-controlled and should become enlightened through the study of authorized Vedic literatures. In this way, unlike ordinary animals, insects, fish, and birds, etc., an enlightened human being may take birth twice and thus become perfect in the knowledge that leads to ultimate liberation. The word anupurvyat in this verse indicates the system of sanskaras, or purificatory rites, beginning with garbhadana sanskara, or the purification of the sexual act. Generally, Shudras and those who do not follow the Vedic system are not attracted to such purificatory ceremonies. Therefore, they remain ignorant of spiritual life and envious of the bona fide spiritual master. Those whose character has been civilized by a systematic cleansing process give up the tendency to be argumentative and whimsical and instead become submissive and eager to learn in the presence of a bona fide spiritual master. Text 23. And the brahmachari should regularly dress with a belt of straw and deerskin garments. You're exempt from that part, boys. Don't have to do that. He should wear matted hair, carry a rod and water pot, and be decorated with aksha beads and a sacred thread. Carrying pure kusha grass in his hand, he should never accept a luxurious or sensuous sitting place. He should not unnecessarily polish his teeth, nor should he bleach and iron his clothes. Don't make me laugh. Hare Krishna. Purport. The word adauta dad vasa indicates that a renounced brahmachari is not concerned with a glistening smile to attract the opposite sex, nor does he pay much attention to his outer garments. You know, and nowadays they have these, I've seen advertisements, they can now replace every one of your teeth in a way that implants it into the jaw and make them perfect looking. Completely white, completely perfect looking. That's all they care about is Krishna. Brahmachari life is meant for austerity and obedience to the spiritual master, so that later in life, when one becomes a businessman, politician, or intellectual brahmana, one will be able to call upon resources of character, discipline, self-control, austerity, and humility. Let that sink in for a second. All the brahmacharis get this. Student life, as described here, is far different from the mindless hedonism known as modern education. Of course, in the modern age, Krishna-conscious brahmacharis cannot artificially adopt the ancient dress and ritualistic duties described here, but the essential values of self-control, purity, and obedience to a bona fide spiritual master are just as necessary today as they were in the Vedic times. Text 24. A brahmachari should always remain silent while bathing, eating, attending sacrificial performances, chanting japa, or passing stool and urine. He should not cut his nails and hair, including the armpit and pubic hair. Purport. Narada Muni gives a similar technical description of Vedic brahmachari life in Canto 7, Chapter 12 of Srimad-Bhagavatam, text 25. One observing the vow of celibate brahmachari life should never pass semen. If the semen by chance spills out by itself, the brahmachari should immediately take bath in water, control his breath by pranayama, and chant the Gayatri mantra. Text 26. Purified and fixed in consciousness, the brahmachari should worship the fire god, sun, acharya, cows, brahmanas, guru, elderly respectable persons, and demigods. He should perform such worship at sunrise and sunset, without speaking but silently chanting or murmuring the appropriate mantras. Text 27. One should know the acharya as myself and never disrespect him in any way. This is a very famous verse. Acharya mam bijani yan navamanyeta karachit namarcha bhuya suyeta sarvadeva mayo guruhu. One should know the acharya as myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him, thinking him an ordinary man, for he is the representative of all the demigods. Purport. This verse appears in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi 146. His Divine Grace Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Paribrajaka Asratarasata Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Prabhupada, has commented on this verse as follows. This is a verse from Srimad-Bhagavatam 11:17-27, spoken by Lord Sri Krishna when he was questioned by Uddhava regarding the four social and spiritual orders of society. He was specifically instructing how a brahmachari should behave under the care of a spiritual master. A spiritual master is not an enjoyer of facilities offered by his disciples. He is like a parent. Without the attentive service of his parents, a child cannot grow to manhood. Similarly, without the care of the spiritual master, one cannot rise to the plane of transcendental service. The spiritual master is also called acharya, or a transcendental professor of spiritual science. Manu Samhita 2.140 explains the duties of an acharya, describing that a bona fide spiritual master, whoops, does it say master or master?
I don't have T here.
Missing a T. Is it the book? The T is there in the book. Also? Whoa. Okay, make a note. We're doing a little service for Dravida and the BBT. Can you imagine how hard it is to get this many pages of all of Prabhupada's books perfect? It's very difficult. Therefore, those who are complaining should. Thank you. Okay. Manu Samhita 2.140 explains the duties of an acharya, describing that a bona fide spiritual master accepts charge of disciples, teaches them the Vedic knowledge with all its intricacies, and gives them their second birth. The ceremony performed to initiate a disciple into the study of spiritual science is called upaniti, or the function that brings one nearer to the spiritual master. One who cannot be brought nearer to a spiritual master cannot have a sacred thread, and thus he is indicated to be a Shudra. The sacred thread worn in the body of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya is a symbol of initiation by the spiritual master. It is worth nothing if worn merely to boast of high parentage. The duty of the spiritual master is to initiate a disciple with a sacred thread ceremony, and after this sanskara, or purificatory process, the spiritual master actually begins to teach the disciple about the Vedas. A person born as Shudra is not barred from such spiritual initiation, provided he is approved by the spiritual master, who is duly authorized to award a disciple the right to be a Brahmana if he finds him perfectly qualified. In the Vayu Purana, an acharya is defined as one who knows the import of all the Vedic literatures, abides by their rules and regulations, and teaches his disciple to act in the same way. Only out of his immense compassion does the personality of Godhead reveal himself as the spiritual master. Therefore, in the dealings of an acharya, there are no activities but those of transcendental loving service to the Lord. He is the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead. It is worthwhile to take shelter of such a steady devotee who is called Ashraya Vigraha, or the manifestation or form of the Lord, of whom one must take shelter. If one poses himself as an acharya, but does not have an attitude of servitorship to the Lord, he must be considered an offender, and this offensive attitude disqualifies him from being an acharya. The bona fide spiritual master always engages in unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By this test, he is known to be a direct manifestation of the Lord and a genuine representative of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Such a spiritual master is known as Acharya Dev. Influenced by an envious temperament and dissatisfied because of an attitude of sense gratification, mundaners criticize a real acharya. In fact, however, a bona fide acharya is non-different from the personality of Godhead, and therefore to envy such an acharya is to envy the personality of Godhead himself. This will produce an effect subversive to transcendental realization. As mentioned previously, a disciple should always respect the spiritual master as a manifestation of Sri Krishna, but at the same time, one should always remember that a spiritual master is never authorized to imitate the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. False spiritual masters pose themselves as identical with Sri Krishna in every respect to exploit the sentiments of their disciples. But such impersonalists can only mislead their disciples, for their ultimate aim is to become one with the Lord. This is against the principles of the devotion cult. The real Vedic philosophy is Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, which establishes everything to be simultaneously one with and different from the personality of Godhead. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami confirms that this is the real position of a bona fide spiritual master, and says that one should always think of the spiritual master in terms of his intimate relationship with Mukunda, Sri Krishna. Srila Jiva Goswami, in his Bhakti Sandarbha 213, has clearly defined that a pure devotee's observation of the spiritual master and Lord Shiva as one with the personality of Godhead exists in terms of her being very dear to the Lord, not identical with him in all respects. Following in the footsteps of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami, later acharyas like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have confirmed the same truths. In his prayers to the spiritual master, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur confirms that all the revealed scriptures accept the spiritual master to be identical with the personality of Godhead because he is a very dear and confidential servant of the Lord. Gaudiya Vaishnavas therefore worship Srila Gurudev, the spiritual master, in the light of his being the servitor of the personality of Godhead. In all the ancient literatures of devotional service, and in the more recent songs of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and other unalloyed Vaishnavas, the spiritual master is always considered to be either one of the confidential associates of Srimati Radharani or a manifested representation of Srila Nityananda Prabhu. Text 28. In the morning and evening, one should collect foodstuffs and other articles and deliver them to the spiritual master. Then, being self-controlled, one should accept for oneself that which is allotted by the Acharya. Purport. One who desires to receive the mercy of a bona fide spiritual master should not be eager to accumulate the paraphernalia of sense gratification. Rather, Whatever one is able to collect one should offer at the lotus feet of the Acharya. Being self-controlled, one should humbly accept that which is allotted by the bona fide spiritual master. Every living entity must ultimately be trained to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But until one has become expert in the techniques of spiritual service, one should offer everything to the spiritual master, who is completely realized in the process of worshipping the Lord. When the spiritual master sees that the disciple is advanced in Krishna consciousness, he then engages the disciple in directly worshipping the personality of Godhead. A bona fide spiritual master does not use anything for his personal sense gratification and entrusts to his disciple only as much material opulence as the disciple can properly offer to the lotus feet of the Lord. The example may be given that when an ordinary father tries to train his son in business and other material activities, he entrusts to the son only as much wealth as the son can intelligently engage in profitable enterprises without foolishly wasting the father's hard-earned money. Similarly, the bona fide spiritual master teaches his disciple to worship the Lord, and an immature disciple must simply deliver everything to the lotus feet of the Guru. Just as an immature child does not keep a personal bank account, but rather receives his maintenance from the father, one who trains the son to be responsible. If one cheats oneself by defying the order of a bona fide spiritual master or Krishna, one certainly becomes a non-devotee or sense enjoyer and falls from the spiritual path. Therefore, one should be trained to serve a bona fide spiritual master and thus become mature in Krishna consciousness. Text 29. While engaged in serving the spiritual master, one should remain as a humble servant, and thus when the Guru is walking, the servant should humbly walk behind. When the Guru lies down to sleep, the servant should also lie down nearby, and when the Guru has awakened, the servant should sit near him, massaging his lotus feet and rendering other similar services. When the Guru is sitting down on his asana, the servant should stand nearby with folded hands, awaiting the Guru's order. In this way, one should always worship the spiritual master. Text 30. Until the student has completed his Vedic education, he should remain engaged in the ashram of the spiritual master, should remain completely free of material sense gratification, and should not break his vow of celibacy, brahmacharya. Purport. This verse describes the upakurvana brahmachari, who enters grihastha ashram or family life after completing his Vedic education. The word evam vritak indicates that although one may eventually marry and become prominent in society as an intellectual, politician, or businessman, during student life, one must remain without false prestige as a humble servant of the bona fide spiritual master. The Naishtiki brahmachari, who never marries, is described in the following verse, text 31. If the brahmachari student desires to ascend to the Maharloka or Brahmaloka planets, he should completely surrender his activities to the spiritual master and, observing the powerful vow of perpetual celibacy, dedicate himself to superior Vedic studies. Purport. One who desires the supreme perfection of life must engage his body, mind, and words in the service of a bona fide spiritual master. One desiring elevation to superior planets, such as Brahmaloka and Maharloka, must fully engage in the spiritual master's service. We can thus imagine the sincerity of purpose and service required to achieve the Krishna Loka planet, which lies far beyond the material universe. 32. Thus enlightened in Vedic knowledge, by service to the spiritual master, freed from all sins and duality, one should worship me as the Supersoul, as I appear within fire, the spiritual master, one's own self, and all living entities. Purport. One becomes glorious and enlightened by faithfully serving a bona fide spiritual master who was expert in the Vedic way of life. Thus purified, one never engages in sinful activities which immediately extinguish the fire of spiritual enlightenment, nor does one become foolish and small-minded, trying to exploit material nature for personal sense gratification. A purified human being is apritagdi, or without consciousness of duality, because he has been trained to observe the Supreme Personality of Godhead within all things. Such sublime consciousness should be systematically taught throughout the world, so that human society will become peaceful and sublime. All glories to my dear God brothers who compiled these purports. So nice. Text 33. Those who are not married, sannyasis, vanaprasthas, and brahmacharis, should never associate with women by glancing, touching, conversing, joking, or sporting. Neither should they ever associate with any living entity engaged in sexual activities. Purport. Pranina indicates all living entities, whether birds, bees, or human beings. Among most species of life, sexual intercourse is preceded by diverse mating rituals. In human society, all types of entertainment, books, music, films, and all places of amusement, restaurants, shopping centers, resorts, are designed to stimulate the sexual urge and create an aura of romance. The peacocks, that beautiful, that's all about attracting the female. One who is not married, a sannyasi, brahmachari, or vanaprastha, should rigidly avoid anything related to sex, and of course should never see any living entity, whether bird, insect, or human being, engaging in the various phases of sexual intercourse. When a man jokes with a woman, an intimate, sexually charged atmosphere is immediately created, and should also be avoided. And this should also be avoided for those aspiring to practice celibacy. Even a householder who becomes attached to such activities will also fall down into the darkness of ignorance. Text 34 and 35, then we'll stop. My dear Uddhava, general cleanliness, washing the hands, bathing, performing religious services at sunrise, noon, and sunset, worshipping me, visiting holy places, chanting japa, avoiding that which is untouchable, uneatable, or not to be discussed, and remembering my existence within all living entities as the Supersoul. These principles should be followed by all members of society through regulation of the mind, words, and body. And we'll stop there. Hare Krishna. The sobering words of the absolute teachings from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Authority. We can find out what is what to do, what not to do, how to think, how to feel, how to will, and how to act in such a way as we can become attracted to Him. And anything that distracts us from that should be rejected. We may not be able to follow all of those principles, like I said in one of the purports in the modern age, but in general, the principles should be followed as far as possible. And we should wonder why we don't attract so many others. Hare Krishna. Okay, we've come to our open mic. The open mic portion of our daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. to help us understand, go deeper, relish. It's all meant to relish, actually. Wow, that must have been a heavy section here. We got everybody so contemplative. I can tell everybody's so thoughtful. Okay, Bhakti Doug's going to start us off.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hari Bol, Bhakti Doug.
I just had a quick reflection. I thought it was interesting hearing about how taking spiritual initiation is actually, it said it was coming closer to the spiritual master. So it's like deepening that relationship.
Yes.
And then it describes how the spiritual master he's the pure representative of Krishna, so you're getting nothing but Krishna. So you're directly, I can just see more clearly how that relationship is.
Yes.
You're directly coming closer to Krishna in that process.
Yes.
And I also thought it was amazing how the spiritual master just guides along the way, just like a father, giving as much as the disciple is ready for and responsibly able to handle.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
A wonderful analogy.
That's exactly right. And also we should understand that after Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, because when Lord Chaitanya came and he was the Yuga Dharma, so he brought the holy name, the Mahamantra, as the method, the main method. So then initiation was started to be given in the holy name. Before Bhaktisiddhanta or Bhakti Vinod, there wasn't like a first and second initiation in our Sampradaya. The initiation was the Gayatri Mantra. But in Kali Yuga, as it was very graphically described here, we're not so qualified. So we need to do what is called Purashaya. That means the preliminary purification before we can approach Krishna. So because of Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we're getting the supreme mantra as the Purashaya, the purificatory method to get us there. And when we get there, it's the same mantra that gives us everything, because that mantra is Radha and Krishna. I mean, what Prabhupada did is out of this world. What Lord Chaitanya gave, of course, is out of this world, but coming to the West and giving what he gave to us and allowing us to enter into these understandings and actually even try to take them up, it's beyond conception. Beyond conception. Yes, Matthew. Wait, Doug has one more thing. Follow up.
I just thought of a question when you were talking about that. Because yesterday, in one of the verses we read, it said, it was describing that what was it, loving devotional intelligence. And in the purport, it was written that in order to develop that intelligence, one chants the Gayatri Mantra.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, as you were just talking, is the Maha Mantra the same thing? Would that give that, obviously get that loving devotional intelligence too? Or is it
the Maha Mantra, if you were to visualize it, are you a statistic man? Venn diagram? You know about Venn diagrams?
Yeah, I know.
Right. So if you were to diagram it, the holy name would be the big circle, right? And the Gayatri Mantra would be a smaller circle inside the big circle.
Okay.
So the holy name, generally, the first initiation is, the initiation is the Gayatri Mantra, and that brings you closer to Radha and Krishna. You don't know about this because you don't know what the Gayatri Mantras are, but I'll just give you just a general, not the details, just a general. It starts with the Brahma Gayatri, which more or less worships the whole universe, and specifically the sun, all the planets, and there's also other levels of understanding of that mantra. And then there's the Guru Bij mantra, and then there's the Guru Gayatri mantra, Then there's the Gora Bij mantra and the Gora Gayatri mantra, and then there's the Kama Gayatri mantra and the Gopal mantra with a certain number of syllables. And all these take us to closer and closer and closer through the right persons in the right way. Because, you know, the Brahma Gayatri comes from Lord Brahma, comes from Krishna. Spiritual master of Brahma is Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. And he gives the Vedas through, the Vedas are eternal, but they come through Brahma from Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. And so he, through each one of his mounts, he gives it one of the Vedas. And the beginning is the Omkara. The Omkara enters into the ear of Brahma, sound of Krishna's flute. And so all of these things spring from transcendental sound. The transcendental sound is not like an ordinary sound where you know, there's a sound and it goes away. You've got a really good set of kartals, you can ring it and it'll ring for a long time before it stops, but stops. But the Omkara is eternal sound, and contained within that. That wasn't exactly the Omkara. You notice the difference? You know, you should change that. Matthew, look me in the eye. Look me. You should change that. That ringtone is demoniac.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
You don't know what it was?
No.
It's not your ringtone?
No. My phone just like opened up YouTube and hit the ad.
Oh, I see. It wasn't your ring. Oh, that's good. Well, that's good. Okay, it was accident. But what happened? It buzzed and you picked it up and you accidentally hit the...
It's like bugging out. Sometimes it just starts hitting itself on the
They don't do that. No computer or no device does that.
Okay.
That's how we set it up. You have to set it up so it doesn't do that. That was quite disturbing to the heart, especially in this. Turn your phone off when you come here. This is about the 5th time that's happened. Either it's come and everybody's disturbed, or it's come and you run out the door and then you run back and, at least while you're here, just turn it off. Anybody who loves you that much is going to get back in touch with you again. Thank you. Thank you. Please do that. Don't forget. Please, I'll remind you just in case. Yeah, just turn it off. Okay, where was I? Yeah, so yeah, the sound, transcendental sound, is coming down. So in that way, the Gayatri Mantra brings it down and then goes into your heart, and then by saying it 3 times a day, every day, no matter what, it brings you closer to Krishna. But then, because the Maha Mantra, we've been given first initiation of Maha Mantra, which is all you really need, there's a very wonderful purport, a couple of verses and purports that describe this very nicely in the Madhya Lila, chapter 15, verse 108. And there may be 1 or 2 verses before that, but it describes this very, and then Prabhupada writes a very detailed purport. Why, even though we chant the Hare Krishna mantra and get the mantra, we need the Gayatri mantra, which makes you eligible to worship the deity. So in that sense also, it brings you closer to Krishna. Because you can't touch the deity unless you have the second initiation. Because by the time you get to the second initiation, you're supposed to have been trained in, cleanliness and, mental control and how to do things. And then when you touch the deity, go close to the deity, have to do deity worship, and do everything, very nicely, especially installed deities, that sometimes in home we may not have such, intense, Raj Bhog, Raja kingly, opulence and rules and regulations, but with the deity installed in the temples, it should be like that. Anybody who's done deity worship knows, when it comes time for the curtains to open, they have to open exactly at the right time, no matter what. You can't say, no, I'm not ready yet. Nope. That's intense. Intense. Those who've done it. Intense. But that intense is supposed to make it more and more serious and more, clean and pure and strong. If you can do that level of service, then you get very strong. But even higher than that is the Bhagavad Marg, what we're doing right now. If you can do this and do it regularly like you guys do almost every day, I'm doing every day, and you guys are mostly doing every day, sometimes can't do every day anyway, whatever. What can I do? I need to consult with you guys. When I go under the, I've never stopped. Even when I broke my arm, I had that surgery, I didn't stop one day, except when I'm on a long haul flight, that's it. What am I going to do when I'm going under the knife? I'm going to be in the hospital for 3-4 days, and I'm not going to be able to do it during those days. Maybe I hope I won't die from separation. No? Won't happen. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, then there's going to be some, there's going to be some weeks afterward, then I might have another one, and same thing, and yeah, so that's the gist of it. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. The Gayatri mantra helps you go just closer, it takes it to another level.
Yes.
But in the end, it's
it purifies your mind, purifies you.
To enter deeper even into the Maha Mantra?
Well, of course, because, the Maha Mantra is everything. The Maha Mantra is not necessary for initiation. The Maha Mantra is on the level of pure devotional service. But because we're not pure, we have all these habits, we have to go through the process of becoming Brahmanically initiated and learning the art and hearing and chanting like this and learning how to inquire. There was a nice section in what we just read about how to inquire. Part of the training is how to inquire properly. Yes, Matthew.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj. If we've heard the Gayatri mantra from someone who's not bona fide, should we repeat it or wait until we hear it from the authorized spiritual master?
What do you mean? If I've heard the Gayatri mantra from someone who's not authorized, what does that mean?
Just I'm seeing here that we get the Gayatri mantra from a spiritual master whose ashram we are staying in. That if
it's not just a matter of, it's not because of the ashram I'm staying in. It's not that because you're staying in an ashram, you get the Gayatri mantra. You have to become a disciple of a bona fide spiritual master. You get the mantra from the bona fide spiritual master, and you have to become a disciple. You have to learn how to be a disciple, learn how to serve. I mean, the descriptions were very clear, very graphic there. So your question isn't really so meaningful because you can't hear those mantras except through a bona fide spiritual master. The sounds don't come except through the bona fide spirit. They may be written down on a page, just like you can go to a bookstore and get books on how to do brain surgery, and you may be able to learn all the technical terms and wherever the places are in the brain to do what, but you can't become a brain surgeon. You can be a brain surgeon by being trained by a brain surgeon. They won't let you touch the human brain until you really know what you're doing. anything like that. You can't just get it from a book or just, I don't know, hear it from a gramophone that's, that happens to be, walking like the nearest, ice cream stand and an ice cream thing, truck that's going by with a, Gayatri mantra coming out of it, it's like, so I don't know what you mean. It doesn't have any meaning, what you said.
So does that mean that that person who was just singing out loud and saying that it was the Gayatri mantra was not singing the Gayatri mantra?
Could you give me I don't understand what you're saying. Are you saying that you're hearing somebody just chanting out loud the Gayatri mantra?
Yes.
Where?
Is over in the apartments over there, close to the temple.
Over in the apartments, there's somebody just singing the Gayatri mantra?
Yes.
Yeah, you're not getting the Gayatri mantra.
Okay. So.
But if that person happens to be initiated, particularly if it's initiated by me, then you should send him to me and find out somebody else, something else. Anyway, it's not clear what you're doing and saying, but yeah, you don't get the Gayatri mantra except through a bona fide initiation. You can't get it except from a person who's initiated in Brahmanically. Is that okay? That's okay? Phew. That's been a deep one. Prana's not coming out with it. What about you? Okay, Abhaya. Let's go.
Like I read in the purport to text 23. The brahmachari life is meant for austerity and obedience to the spiritual master, so that later in life, when one becomes a businessman, austerity and humility. Student life is described here as far different from...
That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. Very nice. Yeah, there were so many points like that in these purports we just read. We could probably read it again, to relish it again, It's very important that we hear from authorized sources and be in an authorized process, because you're bringing out a really good point, actually, because out there people are just doing and saying and thinking whatever they feel like without authorization, and it's causing a disturbance in human society. Therefore, there's that very famous verse that Rupa Goswami always quotes: Shruti Shriti Puranadi Pancharatna Vidembina Aikanti Harer Bhaktir Utpadayvaya Kalpade. That if you do those things without authorization, you just become a disturbance to society. We're not meant to become a disturbance to society. We're meant to make peaceful life in society, better organized, better in knowledge. And that's why I'm very attached to doing this every day. Getting it straight from the Bhagavatam. Who am I? But if we just keep repeating from the Bhagavatam properly and not changing it, not adding or subtracting, then we will all go together, Prabhupada said, back to the spiritual world. Not lollygag around in the material world, as they say. Lollygag, is that a word? Yeah, used to be. It still is. It's 6:30, I gotta stop.
Yeah, here.
Okay, thank you. From cyberspace.
Let's see. Okay, first is Rati Manjari.
Rati, it's about time. We've missed you. You haven't given any. All you do is send a thing and a thumbs up and a Hari Bol,
Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances. Great to hear you live once again. Sobering words indeed. I have a question about the verse in Bhagavad Gita 6:17 about the importance of being regulated. Krishna says, "He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system." I was wondering if you could elaborate about what is appropriate recreation for a devotee.
Proper recreation? Going out and distributing books. Going out and Harinam Sankirtan. Come on, Rati, you're the personification of that. She goes out by herself in the middle of Amsterdam with her little, instrument, and by herself goes out and distributes books and chants. This is the topmost recreational activity. I mean, sometimes devotees go and swim or something like that in a lake or something like that. In New Brajadam they do that because there's a lake right there, I don't know if we like going to swimming pools because, my God, who knows what's in them and what they do and what you have to see. May not be the ideal thing. But, I mean, the Yukta Hari Maharasya, Yukta Chaitapis Karmasu, that verse is already there, and is also there in that sequence of events. Don't sleep too much, don't sleep too little. Don't eat too much, don't eat too little. Don't work too much, don't work too little. Don't have too much recreation, don't have no recreation. So it means do things that won't cause you to forget Krishna, take you away from devotional service. This is devotees' recreation, is to get together and hear the Bhagavatam together and talk about it. It's like, I've never been happier in my life when I'm doing this. This is the topmost thing for me. Maybe someone else has another thing that's the top thing, but it's not the same for every single person also. It's not like a mechanical, like Prabhupada used to say, if you sleep more than 6 hours, you're in ignorance. But some people need more, some people need less. You have to accept what you need, both in terms of regulating your life, so that you don't become over endeavor, that you don't become frenetic, that your mind and senses can become peaceful. And basically that means follow the program that Prabhupada gave us. Rise early, chant Hare Krishna, bathe, clean yourself, and chant, hear, and then do your duty. Everybody has to work, according to those, occupational duties. Everybody has to work. Nobody can not work. So do an honest kind of occupation and take the fruits of it and offer as much as you can to Krishna, and the rest maintain yourself nicely, properly. As Prabhupada used to say, be a lady and a gentleman. Ladies and gentlemen.
Sudevi Dasi as well left a comment.
Yes.
Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Do not worry whenever you are not able to read. I will replay your past recordings. I cannot go one day without your association in Srimad-Bhagavatam. We will miss you more, and it will make our hearts grow fonder.
Oh, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. That's the right answer. It's the right answer. And now Mayapur Shashi's got them all up on YouTube. It's very easy now to find them. I don't know if you've looked, but it's very easy to find everything. And he's got the Bhagavatam verses split so that's by canto and, by Bhagavad Gita by chapter. So it's very easy to find what you want to listen to. Okay, thank you, Sudev. You made me feel better. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. That's the principle. Okay, It's 6:30, there's going to be a program at the temple, and so we'll stop here. Thank you very much, everybody, and this is a wonderful section teaching us how to be human beings and also devotees. Hare Krishna. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Uddhava Gita ki jai. Shri Krishna ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Harimo. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda. See you tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Same place, same station, same time. Haribol. Hare Krishna.